everybody, I'm Michael Monaco.
And I'm Bobby Salveson, and we are the Hazmat Guys, bringing you the knowledge and insight to make your job a little bit easier and safer. But before today's show, let's listen to our sponsors. From traditional headsets to in-ear communications, Cavcon offers rugged and reliable choices for any communication challenge and any harsh environment. Cavcon's award-winning Talk Through Your Ears technology is specifically designed for clear and consistent in-suit communications. Whether you're working from a quiet control room or responding to an incident in a full level A, Cavcom has the comm system that's right for you. Any suit, any respirator, any radio, any environment. Check them out at cavcominc.com, that's CAVCOMINC.com, or give them a call at 866-547-4988.
Now let's get into the show.
Hey everybody, this is the Hazmat Guys, episode 177. Today, me and my clogged up sinuses will be talking a little bit about carbon dioxide. I know, boring topic, right? But I got an interesting thing that happened and we want to share it with you. Before we get into that, Bob, where are we going to be?
Well, I'm personally going to be flying out to California to hang with some peeps in Cali.
Yes.
In Oakland. I'm making gang signs right now. I don't know if that really is applicable.
Your liberal friends.
Yeah. Yeah, my peeps. We're going to be going out there and doing some advanced hazmatting and hazcatting. Really kind of excited for that. But then I'm coming back, and we were just actually laughing offline. We're going to the New York State Conference, and Bob Kosh and Derek Schumann are going to be taking a ride with us in the minivan up to the state. 5 hours of it's going to be literally a clown car.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah,
it is. That's going to be a nightmare.
Although,
and
now that I know that Kosh is coming, I'm going to have Supersat. We're having fresh mozzarella. Like we are going.
Like a whole...
Yeah, we're going full Guinea style.
And then we're. I think the next one out there is going to be almost in May. It's like the Midwest Hazmat Conference, which is a newer one that we're going to. But looking forward to that one too. So
yeah.
What's the topic? You said CO2.
Yeah, CO2. CO2.
We've hit this a couple times.
We have hit this a couple times, and the times that we've hit it, we have focused more on the acute part of CO2 versus the chronic part. And we had a run that we were on, and it really, I didn't realize something until much later when the run was done. So I want to kind of go through this, and I'm hoping that it flips a switch in some people's brains, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
All
it
right.
does. I like it.
So we were both on this run. We were just talking a little bit about it offline before we started recording. It was a typical CO2 run. We went to Manhattan for a restaurant. CO2 alarm had been going off. That's all we knew. We get there. Well, it probably took us about 20 minutes to get there.
Yeah.
So the first two units are already there. They go down. I had the resource position, which some of you may call the science position or the research.
Tech ref.
Yeah, tech ref. All different ones. Bob was driving the first or second piece. Second. So there was an officer and initial entry team that went ahead down. And for me, for my job, I'm just collecting information to write up a report later on. So we get these runs fairly typical. So there's nothing crazy. I'm trying to hunt down the manager. So we're in and out. They had done some readings down in the basement. Oxygen levels were good. So nobody was on SCBA. The whole building was clear to walk around. And once we get the all clear to walk around as a resource guy who generally doesn't have a mask on, I'm now free to move about the building. So I'm doing that. I'm moving about the building, and I'm passing the entry team, and I'm looking at the tank, and the tank looked like your normal cryogenic tank. It was a CO2 tank. There was nothing on it whatsoever. Turns out that the manager had shut off the valve and had called the company. The company said shut down the valve, and the alarm was going off. So we ended up. They ended up calling us. And that was pretty much the crux of the run. Nothing crazy happened. This isn't about the actual tank itself. This isn't about the CO2. But I was interviewing the manager because she had done something to the tank. So I wanted to make sure I had a full list of what she had done for the report. And this didn't click until much later, and shame on me for this, but it didn't click until much later on. She's going through over the tank with me. I'm like, okay, so what did you have? And she goes, when I turned the tank off, this is the valve that I turned, and it was the vapor line. And she goes, man, there was ice all over the pipes, and it was down the tank. And I went, okay, and I kind of jotted down that information. And then she goes, yeah, we just got so sick and tired of listening to the alarm all day that we finally just kind of called you guys in. And I'm like, okay. And I'm writing down information, and nothing is even clicking to me. And I get in the rig, and I'm writing up my report, and I get to this area, and we're almost back to quarters at this point. I'm typing up the report. And what she said struck me, that the alarm had been going off all day. The tank that she said was chock full of ice was now completely melted. There was no ice on the tank. This tank had been leaking all day long. We were there, 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night? Yeah. So it hit me that there was a whole bunch of people that had not an acute exposure, right? Not like an oxygen displacement exposure, but a literal chronic over the course of the day exposure to CO2. And we so often think about CO2 as this oxygen displacer, right? Because that's what happens to us, that we don't ever think about CO2 as being an actual chemical that can change the inside of your body and kind of what's happening.
That is an interesting thing. It's a different angle.
It's a different angle. Well, it's a different thought process, because if it were any other chemical, that was like going to do something to you, then I think we would be medically monitoring anytime we went on these runs. But we think about it as an O2 displacer. So
yeah,
we're going to kind of get into the foundation of the CO2 a little bit.
Let's set the stage.
We'll set the stage, and then we'll get into the numbers and pathophysiology of everything. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's very reasonable. So all right. So why is this? Let's just back it up a little bit and say that I think everybody would be in agreement that these things are everywhere. If it's not in a pressurized, high pressure cylinder, what's happening more and more, especially in the commercial setting, is that you're seeing the dewars, these liquid carbon dioxide, because it's a lot cheaper. Actually, I think it's a lot cheaper because of just the logistics of dropping off liquid as opposed to mucho cylinders.
Yeah.
So you're seeing these a lot in McDonald's and fast food and anywhere has these things.
Yeah,
you're even seeing these things in a refrigeration setting where carbon dioxide has a refrigerant number. It's 744. You know what I'm saying? So, like, these things are, you can see them in refrigerants, chillers. You can have them. So
absolutely. They're literally, it's becoming so prevalent to just get your compressed carbon dioxide in liquid form that everybody's doing it. The technology is easy. It's simple. It's quick. You get, what is it, like an 800 to 1 expansion ratio? So, you would need 800 of those cylinders to replace one cryo cylinder.
Right.
And we understand that, right? Like we understand the whole 800 to 1, a liquid leak, it displaces the oxygen, we go down. Phoenix Fire Department has done a phenomenal job getting that information out there. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I highly recommend you Google that case study that the Phoenix Fire Department put out there. Absolutely phenomenal information. And the location of a lot of these cylinders is sometimes not in the best places, right? Like where I live, I'm in like the suburbs, more rural than suburbs, and our McDonald's and our 7-Elevens, the cylinders are just kind of out in the open, right? They're in the back. But you go into highly densely populated areas, and they're using basements. They're using areas where there traditionally is not very good ventilation. So when you have some kind of a leak, you have an area that it's able to build up relatively quickly. And if it's a small leak, it could go relatively undetected for a very long period of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we kind of get in there and we focus on that. Okay, is somebody going to go down from oxygen displacement? And we really need to be thinking a lot more about the medical portion of long-term exposure. And in order to do that, as we've started progressing forward, we start to get meters, we start to look at the systems that are in place, and for the most part, there are two different ways in which we measure the CO2 that's in the atmosphere, right? We either do it in parts per million, or we do it in the percentage by volume. And this makes a difference because our meters, like my meter, reads in percentage of volume, and we go into these basements and the alarm system is reading in parts per million. So can you quickly do those conversions? Are you adept enough to say, yes, my meter's matching what this meter is reading?
That would be 10,000 parts per million.
10,000 parts per million. So if I walk in and I'm reading like 0.5, that doesn't seem like a very big number on my meter, but that's actually a really significant number in terms of parts per million. And again, it's not enough to really displace any kind of oxygen. We're not going to get any kind of tick, but that's enough to start having medical issues, even in a healthy person.
Right. Yeah, and that all depends on the resolution of your meter. What if you don't have 0.1 resolution? It only goes 1%. You'll never see that 500 parts per million.
Right, until
you'll never even know it's there.
Way past.
So the TWA, the time-weighted average, which is one of those standards, the time-weighted average is kind of roughly equivalent to the PEL, the permissible exposure limit. For carbon dioxide is 5,000 parts per million, which, again, is 0.5%. So if your meter doesn't read in 0.1, you're not seeing this. You'll never even get to that point.
Right. And this is an important number for us because the TWA is specific for like a workplace environment, right?
Right.
So when we start looking at these numbers and whether or not we can allow people to continue working, these are the numbers that we need to understand. Because a worker can actually be exposed in a time-weighted average to 5,000 parts per million over the course of a 40-hour work week. Right? So we're not talking about going into a residential building and being like, hey, you got to get out of here because it's not supposed to be here. So when we look at the TWA, one of the other big numbers that we want to look at is going to be the IDLH. And I'm sure Bob feels the same way. We kind of take these numbers and we try to almost mentally plot them to see how toxic this chemical is. And for CO2, our IDLH is 40,000 parts per million, or 4% of the atmosphere.
Right. Now, what we usually go into, and STEL is the short-term exposure limit. It's a 15-minute shot, and there's a little bit more depth to it, but it's 15 minutes, and again, it's over a work day. There is a newer one out that's called emergency limits, I was hearing. It's a little more applicable. I have to find out a little bit more about it because I think we're going to get back into different levels. I think we got to expand on these things a little bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll make a show or two on that. But anyway, the 15-minute STEL is 30,000 parts per million. That's not far off of that IDLH. Now, IDLH is 30 minutes, while the STL is 15 minutes, and it's only 10,000 parts per million off of each other.
Yeah. So it's got a pretty strong curve to it, I would say. Even the EPA only allows for 1,000 parts per million of continuous exposure. So, even though you have 5,000 TWA, all right, well, the EPA says 1,000 parts per million is something that you can be exposed to on a regular basis.
Now, as far as this specific scenario, we had signs and symptoms. Did we have signs and symptoms, or did we not?
I don't know because not a single person was medically surveilled.
Okay, so then we're going to come back around to that. But in what we typically see, we see the acute effects. We see that whole rapid release, lack of ventilation. It fills up like a swimming pool if it was in a basement, and we get these issues like O2 displacement, this asphyxiation, where they start getting dizzy. And it's not because of the toxicity of it, because carbon dioxide is relatively not toxic. It does make a low, carbonic acid, but that's not why you're going down. It's because you basically have no oxygen to breathe in. But we usually think about the acute.
Yeah, and generally it's because of the location that we talked about before, right? We have a massive, or not even a massive, just a little liquid leak in a small area that's really very poorly ventilated, and you can build up those numbers relatively quickly.
You've heard us talk about First Line Technologies' Dahlgren Decon solution and the FiberTech wipes and mitts. They've just come out with Enhanced Decon Systems Kit, which contains everything you need to quickly decontaminate 6 to 24 operators and all their gear in one fully equipped grab-it-and-go bag. This kit has been hazmat team tested and approved, and it's the only full-team modified decon kit with the power of Dahlgren Decon and FiberTech wipes to counter hundreds of known and emerging threats. The EDS kit is perfect for incidents where a small footprint, low logistics decontamination SOP is appropriate. Are you operating in a harsh environment? No problem. Whether it's minus 10 or 104 degrees F, Dahlgren Decon will maintain its effectiveness and can be easily applied to neutralize threats. The kit is stable in temperatures from minus 40 to 160 degrees F if you carry the RSDL with you. If you use all the consumables in the kit, unlike other rapid deployment kits, you do not need to buy a complete kit to resupply. Just purchase one of the First Line EDS replenishment packs and order just the elements you need. When ounces count and the clock is ticking, grab the EDS kit and go. Call the guys at First Line Technology for more information or a quote at 703-955-7510 or email them at sales@firstlinetech.com. So now we get into what would be the chronic, man. No, we get into chronic. We get into chronic exposures. So now, when this happens, I'm going to say it's a little less catastrophic. It's a little less easy to pick it up, in fact, because what if, again, the resolution of the metering isn't strong enough or isn't fine enough to even pick up that you're getting a consistent exposure? So, like a slow leak in the gas line, like this situation that we're talking about right now.
Right. And even that slow gas leak in a cryo tank is going to give you some icing on the tank because you have a continuous latent heat of vaporization within the tank to keep up on that constant gas leak. So you will see a more generalized frosting across the entire tank. That is definitely one way of knowing that you have a slow gas leak.
Right, especially when you start getting frost on the outer tank. If you have frost in the outer tank, the inside tank and the whole vapor space in between, or the space in between, is rock solid with ice. You know, so if you're seeing it on the outside, it's been going for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Right?
Without a doubt. So what is, Bob mentioned before something about carbonic acid and all this stuff. Why is it that CO2 actually has some forms of toxic effects? And this is what we really want you to understand so that you can shift your mental process to it only displaces oxygen to, okay, this has toxic effects as well. Because understanding carbon dioxide poisoning, we first need to understand that unlike many of the other gases that are just asphyxiants, carbon dioxide actually plays a very intricate role in our biological system.
Well, if you went to medic school or whatever it might be, you will know that carbon dioxide is an end product of our metabolism. You breathe in oxygen, you breathe out carbon dioxide. But actually what happens is a lot of people don't realize that CO2 is actually the trigger for us to breathe, right? So when your CO2 levels go up too much in your blood, it triggers you to breathe. And the only exception to this, if you're really a hardcore nerd in medical school, then you'll know that the only people that have this switched that are actually the other way are the COPD patients. Those people actually have an oxygen trigger. There's a little tip from Uncle Bob if you don't know that.
Old school medical facts coming out.
Oh, good stuff. So then how does it work? Well, we breathe in lots of fresh air into the lungs and oxygen brought into the cells. The oxygen is taken into the cells, used in that whole metabolic processes, using all that crap in there, and then CO2 is basically spit back out into the bloodstream.
Yeah, and as the CO2 mixes with the water in our body, it creates that carbonic acid that Bob was alluding to before. Now, it's a very slightly acidic compound, but the more and more that the cells are giving off CO2 in the blood, there's going to be a buildup of that carbonic acid. It's going to get stronger and stronger.
Right. So this means that the blood becomes more acidic. And this is where the whole the buffer system that we have in here. Remember, we're talking about biological systems that are so small that very small changes in blood acidity. Oh, boy.
Tough word.
Will throw into what they call homeostasis, right? So, but still, it has this is able to be picked up by the neurons, special neurons in the brain. So when the blood acids reach a critical point, everything goes, breathe.
Yep.
And this is done over and over for your entire life.
Yep. And
Crazy.
as we breathe out that CO2, right, it comes out of our lungs, it comes out of our blood, our pH goes back up to a more neutral, and the cycle starts all over again.
It's crazy. And so now the resulting signs and symptoms that we would like to see very early in this scenario, that these employees, it's going to be very long and it's going to be taking a long time. This is like one of those things, and this is, I don't know who's using SCBA out there that's listening, but you know those little nose flaps in the cup, the cone of the SCBA face piece?
Yes.
Those things used to be able to be taken out, and they would fall out, and it was not a big deal, right? And I was always a big proponent of putting those things in and making sure they work.
Why?
Because what happens is there's a very specific airflow in those SCBAs, and if you don't pay attention to it, you'll actually purge your cylinder. So when it comes into the face piece, it goes across the lens. You breathe. Now it's up in your eyes. When you breathe in, it goes through those little flaps of the nose portion into the cup where your mouth is. You breathe it in, and you exhale through the front.
Right.
Right? If you don't have those little flaps there, you're recycling your carbon dioxide, which means that your respiratory rate goes up for no reason.
I did not know that.
See? There's no reason. So if you don't have those little flappers in there, you're actually going to go through your cylinder a lot faster for no reason. You're not working harder. It's just because you're recycling your CO2.
So now why, then somebody might ask, why is it that I would be breathing faster just by breathing in more CO2? And it has to do with the steps that we talked about above, right? So if I have more CO2, if I'm breathing in more CO2, I'm breathing out less CO2, my normal acidity in my blood for that moment is now a little bit lower. It's more acidic. So it takes less time to actually hit that mark where my pH in my blood is going, we need to breathe some of this off. And I breathe out more times per minute if the acidity in my blood is lower.
Right. That SCBA face piece thing ties that together very nicely. This is the same thing as, I'm hyperventilating, let me breathe into a paper bag. It's like, whoa.
Yeah,
right?
Not necessarily the best steps, but hey, listen, whatever works.
So as we're kind of coming around to this thing, a 1.5% to 2.5% concentration in volume, in air, over a month will give you a mild respiratory stimulation. A month?
A month? That doesn't sound right.
I was going to say, wow, that's really long.
I believe that's probably should be a day.
A minute. A day?
A day. Yeah.
I'm not even going to cut that out. So 1.5 to 2.5 in air over the day. Will give you a mild respiratory stimulation, meaning that they were breathing faster, probably unbeknownst to them. And let's say the normal average is 12 respiratory cycles per minute. Well, they might have been doing 14, 15, not enough to really be like, man, I'm not catching my breath here.
Right, right. And now remember, we're assuming healthy people. The problem comes into play is that nobody is really truly healthy. So this is why it's important to kind of be like, hey, we should just check these people out, because it's really easy to fix them, right? Fresh air, oxygen, it balances itself out pretty quick, but we got to make sure that these people don't have underlying problems, because 3 to 4% can double or quadruple your breathing rate in a healthy person.
See, now we're getting some significant numbers where there's going to be a difference.
Yeah.
A noticeable difference, right?
Right.
At 5 to 6%, it only takes about an hour to see a significant respiratory response.
Yeah. And then once we start to get beyond that respiratory response, we start to actually see changes in people's behavior. We start to see headaches. We see increases in heart rate, dizziness, fatigue, the even more rapid breathing. They're visually impaired. Their hearing starts to go. And if you have somebody in like a restaurant working environment, it's often hot in the kitchen if the kitchen's in the basement. They're often doing a lot of work to begin with. They may not notice that this is happening. You couple that with an underlying medical issue, and you can have bad things happen long before the oxygen disappears.
Right, because if you have one guy on the team that has a medical condition and he's the only one showing symptoms, everybody thinks, oh, maybe he's sick. Meanwhile, everybody's slightly sick. It's just that he's exacerbated a little bit more.
Right.
If you have a moment, please head over to iTunes and leave us a positive review. And don't forget to check out the book, National Emergency Response Hazmat Drills, or NERD, on Amazon.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Hazmat Guys.
You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube channel at The Hazmat Guys. And take a moment to call our comment hotline at 843-628-1484 and go to www.thehazmatguys.com and sign up for the newsletter.
We seriously look forward to your feedback about any of the information provided, and we also want to hear about interesting incidents that you were a part of. So you can send us a note at feedback@thehazmatguys.com. And remember, any of the information that you share with us, if we put it on air, can always remain anonymous.
Remember, guys, don't just get on the job. Get into the job.